So good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to moderate this session and good to see all of you. I think the one best part of specifically people working in BFSI segment is they're absolutely on time. In fact, everyone comes, slightly before the time, so that's the best part. And we are exactly starting at 6:30. There's one gentleman who's just coming, but I think meanwhile we'll start with the introductions first. Uh, so to begin with, my name is Amol. I'm the editor of ETBFSI.com and ATCFO.com. Have been a finance journalist since last 16 years, worked with CNBC, Z Business, and now working with Economic Times. Few years back, Economic Times decided to venture into digital far more aggressively with not just one website, but different portals for different sectors. Because what used to happen earlier is when you used to have or we still have obviously a dominant position in print. If we, for example, manage to interview Mr. Khara of SBI, then there is no place for any other bank CEO. That's the page issue. So that problem has sorted with the digital websites, and that's how ETBFSI, ET Auto, or ET Retail and various websites came into the picture, where we not only cover the top CEOs, which generally is the focus of the television and print, but we also do stories in details with the CXOs, CIOs, CDOs. In fact, we have done a couple of stories with the cashiers and the trailers also. That's what the difference that the ETBFSI makes. We do stories, articles, videos, podcasts, and curate content through such sessions, which really helps us write a meaningful content. Uh, can you please play the small video that of etbfsi.com? Just last month completed 5 years, and I'm glad to share with you that today more than 4 million people, reach out to us. I mean, our active users, those who read articles and stories of ETBFSI are more than 4 million. And our daily newsletter that we send, if you're not receiving it, just enter your email ID and you will get it for free, is being received by more than 3.5 million people, that the newsletter that we dispatch every day morning. So that's about ETBFSI. Today's topic specifically, as I said, we curate content through different conversations. So this is one of them. Our knowledge partners are also there, Salesforce and Centelon. And the topic of this particular discussion is hyper-personalized, frictionless customer and experience. I think what the difference that I have seen in AMCs these days is happy faces. 7 8 years back when I used to meet the AMC companies, everybody was, there is a pressure, SIP badana hai, vagera, vagera. I think now nobody wants to do that because it has automatically increased to a different level. And on the frictionless parts, all of you know the data, I can also talk about it, but one important point that I have seen specifically hyper personalization in media itself, the newsletter that I send in the morning, I have 4 sections: banks, NBFC, fintech, and insurance. There are so many people from different verticals says, I just want to read about fintechs. Can you craft a different newsletter for me? And there are people from insurance who says, can you craft something related to insurance? I think that's where people want, personalized attention. And that's, scaling up and strengthening the BFSI sector as well. And every BFSI company is thinking about it. So that's what we will discuss and try to learn from each other. But before we begin, let me start with the introductions first. I introduce myself, so I will start from Ravi. Please, speak about yourself, and I would request everyone to talk about.
Thank you, Amol, and good evening, everyone. Actually, I'm the odd man out. I don't represent the AMC, so I'm on the NBFC side of Mira Asset Group, but closely work for the AMC. We do loan against mutual funds, and which is the product which probably helps the AMC to control the redemptions. So I represent Mira Asset Financial Services. Thank you.
Yeah, good to know you, Ravi. And Thanks, Amol. I'm Srinivas Jain. I'm Executive Director at SBI Funds Management. Been with the asset management industry now close to 30 years, and with SBI alone for last 24 years. Various hats that I've worn, and one of them is the technology hat that I look at and work very closely with EcoStructure, work on the advocacy side, I work on the fintech environment, apart from everything that we do as asset managers in India.
In fact, those who don't know, Srini was also part of the Global FinTech Festival. Like in a small room of IAMI, we were thinking about how to make this event, and Srini has a great, stake in that.
Oh, thank you for
Great to know about it. Ganesh?
Hi everyone, I'm Kanish Kapoor. I'm on the board of Asset Management Company, which is the investment advisor to Taurus Mutual Fund, and I'm also the chief investment officer. So in that regard, I'm the minority because I think I'm the only one from the investment side here.
Sure, Ganesh.
Hi, I'm Rahul Dayal. I'm the CTO for White Oak Capital. We're a, young mutual fund that has just started up, about a year and a half old.
Hi, good evening. I'm KS Rao. I work with Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management. With ABSL, it's over 16 years. Currently, I take care of investor education and distribution development, apart from few other verticals in the system, and work with the group very closely. But I joined Srini in completing my 3 decades with asset management industry.
Yeah, but I started my career in Birla, so it comes back to that.
Sure.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rashida Rupawala. I am the COO at Edelweiss Mutual Fund. Been in this industry for over 15 years now, and it's been an exciting journey at Edelweiss Mutual Fund.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Pranay Sinha. I'm the account director at Salesforce. Thank you so much. I know most of you have been engaged with Salesforce, so let me start by saying thank you. For others, we'll certainly, have that relationship going on. I take care of the financial services industries for the West region, and really happy to be here as part of this conversation. Looking forward for a meaningful conversation. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Ajit Menon, Group Chief Operating Officer at Vibrity Group. So I'm not the odd one out. I represent an NBFC and an asset management company. So I run operations for a 4,000 crore asset management business and an 8,000 crore NBFC. But 10,000, slightly over 10,000 crores in assets on the private credit side on the asset management business, and we're about 8 years in existence. We do a whole host of things on the NBFC and the asset management side. Some interesting stuff which I could elaborate later. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Reena Nathani. I'm Chief Business Officer at Quantum Mutual Fund, essentially responsible for customer delight, customer experience. Been with Quantum for the last 3 years, so relatively new to the mutual fund space, but have extensive experience in consulting in the US and in India.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Bhavit Godiwala. I represent Centelon Solutions. I head the business for our company in Asia, Middle East, Africa, India. We are a 8-year young IT firm. Started, and most of the top management is extensively experienced in BFSI segment with Infosys, Capgemini, and others. I personally spent 15 plus years in Infosys Finacle. We started about 8 years back as our own journey into tech for financial services specifically. We are a Salesforce partner. We do a lot of work on Salesforce across geographies. It's a pleasure to have you all here and look forward to a good discussion today evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Krishan Kumar and I'm the Group CTO for ASK Asset Wealth Management. So a slightly checkered career. The first 17 years have been spent in banking. The next 15 years have been spent in, the 14, 15 years have been spent in IT, and the last 5 years has been with asset management, NBFC, property investment advisory, and all these areas. So that's my journey as far as my life is concerned. So it's almost more than 3.5 decades of work experience across all these companies, across all areas. So whether it's technology or business, it's right from technology to business operations to IT, and then back to business operations and IT. That's where I landed. Because the industry feels it's checkered.
fantastic. Quite must say different people from different segments, and it's going to be a meaningful discussion for sure. So let me start straightforward. So what I'm going to do, generally I have lots of questions. I prepare questions according to each and every speaker, and then I shoot it. But here what I have done is I have prepared only 6-7 questions, and I will shoot questions, and whoever wants to answer, please, feel free to add. So lead out one questions, and then please, maybe add your perspective. So, since we're talking about hyper personalized world today, my question is how to create data driven personalized experience with 360-degree view of customer, building the 360-degree view, investors crave personalization. How are you leveraging technology to gather and analyze data across touch points? Because different people want different experience. I still know a lot of people wants to still use a desktop, but there are people who just wants app, right? So considering this, how are you creating a holistic customer profile? Slightly long, but anybody can. Srini, you want to start?
Oh, this is a it's a question that can be asked for next 10 years and it'll still have the same answers, right? The point here is we I mean the whole thing about targeting a customer of one has been something that's been talked about for many years now. And things have got so good at it that today it's scary, right? So, people then start figuring out saying, how the hell do you know so much about me? And this is now becoming a bigger problem with DPDP and other things coming into play in terms of disclosures and stuff like that. Having said that, the only way the customer, thanks to the whole Instagram world and the whole scrolling world, the only way customer can ever give you an attention is that you, at that 10 seconds time that you have in his hands, you need to make sure that you have relevant information. So we're all struggling hard to get that done. At SBI, we are largely a B2B company. So for us to be overly indexed on building a fantastic front end experience is there, but not really there. I mean, it's very much there in terms of all the assets that we do, but we try and build that through a B2B experience more than a B2C experience, because the entire asset management industry is largely focused around that. But some of the stuff that we've done reasonably better in the last few years has been ability to do high quality A/B testing. One thing that was missing was we had a lot of personas and profiles and blah 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 blah, but the last mile creative was still very how do I say this, not appealing to our customers. So some of the stuff that we've done in terms of A/B testing has kind of helped us get the last mile interactions a little more better, sharper in terms of all the profiling. Now the content creators don't have to worry too much about it. Another thing that we've done is build I wouldn't say very rudimentary customer 360, which is, we still don't have a very big tool, but we have a marketing automation tool, we have a CRM solution, we have like 10 other stuff, but we've kind of stitched that together into some kind of a 360 I will not even call it a data lake, but a mart, and that mart is kind of getting smarter by the day. But we are now investing into a large data lake capability. Once we have data lake, then we can bin some of these unstructured stuff today everybody talks about into that, and hopefully make much more better decision. But that's us. But I see some very interesting stuff happening in our own industry and in the BFSI space. We all aspire to do that. But our limitations are largely to do with the capability and, more importantly, priority. And at this point of time, our priority largely is around B2B, and we spend a lot of our resources around B2B. And there we build better experiences. So for partner experiences are fantastic. We have about 40,000 partners who use our partner app, partner website, partner asset. We have like 6 of them, and all of them are fairly well to do. We've done some really hyper customization. Like for example, a wallet share of a distributor, you get to know when he logs in and says, what's the wallet share that are bringing to us and how does that improvement happens. We've been able to help him in understanding in his PIN code, if he puts his PIN code, what are the other distributors doing, things like that, which are very customized to them, rather than just giving them a data around what businesses that he's bought to us. We've been able to help them build that. Of course, with all this, we have been able to build some kind of a standardized stack. So one thing that we we very proud ourselves is what we build as B2C experience, we give it as a B2B experience. So we've built a entire API invest stack, which kind of is now available for our partners to use, which also includes some of the element of analytics that we have built. None of us do AI yet, but we are all talking about it. Hopefully in coming days, we'll be able to integrate that.
Oh, sure, I think that was great to begin with. Anyone wants to add from that end? Yes, Mr. Rao, go ahead.
What Srini said, most of us in the same space today. I mean, yeah, each of us are trying our best, especially on the B2B platform. We have done amazing work when it comes to the personalization, our data analytics, our supporting the B2B partners. When it comes to the investors, probably the effort what we put today is the one making the life ease and making it more comfortable. A click of button can we do things. And if I look at the problem statement when investor is putting his money or her money, you know, it's a can I get it quickly? At one swipe, I can complete it, and everything can happen in under the minute of transactions. Probably that's where we went. And the last but not the least, a lot of stuff is happening in the industry today on the educating the customer on the app space, and you know, and that we feel like, you know, customer can come and understand everything he or she want to look at. What is that there? I mean, empowering customer with the right education. I think most of us put a lot of stuff. And another part which has happened from our side is we have also gone a bit of vernacular mode. You know, that's today it's not only bilingual. Some of the stuff has gone multilingual.
If I may
Please,
add,
yes.
we are Quantum. I think is a little unique in that sense because we are direct to consumer, or we were set up as direct to consumer. So, being able to reach the customer with this personalized content is essentially something that we've been working on over the last couple of years to get to that level of a gradual personalization. I think if you look at it, starting with the basics of what are your customer segments broadly, we've tried to now implement with tech customer journeys, and I think that has helped us a lot. Using simple martech to say, these are the basic segments. I've analyzed my data at the start. How do I push content at least broadly and start using those models to continuously get the feedback, improve, and then get the loop in? The ultimate goal is to have that unified customer profile, which helps you connect all the omni channels. So whether you're talking to someone on WhatsApp or you're talking to someone email, how do you take that information and then start analyzing it and building that predictability, recommendation engine, all of that? So we are in the beginnings of that with the journeys, because each journey broadly classifies people and behaviors. So how do you then move down to the individual level and start, like an Instagram does, give you super specialized content? I think that's where AI will play a key role. And with a lot of the startups that are there in the industry, it's also, and we're relatively smaller, so we can implement quicker in that sense. How do you integrate those components to your most critical segments and start piloting or testing that first before you start scaling it out? I think that's the approach we've sort of taken with tech. And
So, yeah, absolutely.
The advantage that a relatively newer company or fintechs, they don't carry baggage essentially from 30 years. So I would want to draw parallels stating that the SBIs of the world, they're behemoths. They're like huge warships which take like 10 kilometers to turn around. But they are also competing with frigates, who can turn around at in a smaller radius. So that interplay is beautiful. That's because the behemoths are now catching up, because behemoths have deep pockets. The frigates are smaller and nimbler, but they need to access private capital to grow, right? So, but what this is doing is this is actually accelerating the technology cycle exponentially, right? So what we've seen is hyper personalization in private credit. Three broad segments for us: corporates, retail, which would mean H&I, ultra H&I. The journeys were already designed, and it's easier for us to design a journey from scratch. Thinking in first principles always help tech first companies. So it's easier for them as compared to the behemoths, because you've got to carry a lot of baggage from the past. It is good and bad both, right?
Something echoing Ajit's sentiment, coming from the tech side, and if you look at Salesforce, it forms the very core philosophy of Customer 360. But while a lot of you are talking from the business angle, if you look at Customer 360, it was something which is good to have. So it's now become a hygiene factor for newer technologies. If you talk about Gen AI, if you talk about the new analytics, or the newer technology which is coming in, you will have to have the customer 360 degrees. So if it is personalizations, if it is AI, if you want to run strategies on that, that is becoming the hygiene. So, I feel while it was good to have, I've spent around 20 years talking to organizations on, what drives you. And during these years, it has changed. But what remains as a core is you have to have the future AI enabled, right? So what I feel is that C360 is becoming the hygiene factor for newer technologies, organizations to adopt. So whether it's the newer organizations where there's less data, where they're bigger organizations who have, data over the years, and that's gold. To dig it, you need equipment and you need that placeholder, and that's where Customer 360 is heading.
One of the
point, right? I think I'll speak on behalf of most of the AMCs. So at least most of the AMCs, as far as I know, have the transaction data in place. So that's pretty much in place, and they're able to process it and so on. I think what this needs to be extended to is things like unstructured data or data from social media or other augmented data that really needs to be added to these kind of things. So a 360 for whether it is a customer or a distributor is pretty straightforward. I think where it really needs to move to a level is like, let's say, a Swiggy or a Zomato, who is able to tell you that, okay, now is the time you order this particular thing for lunch. So to be able to predict what the customer will want at what time. So in the mutual fund parlance, to be able to analyze and decide when the customer is really going to invest with you. So using all of that data and then pushing those messages across will make a bigger difference than just creating a 360. So that's where I think AI can come a lot in handy. And like Srinivas was saying, not all AMCs have really gone down the path of AI. Everybody's experimenting with it, but I haven't seen any real implementation. I think soon we'll see all that happening. And when that happens is when we'll see a lot of difference, to the investor as well as the distributor.
Sure. So we have, yeah. Rahul, did you finish?
Yes, yes, please.
Sure. So Vamsi, great to have you. We started, before you joined. You want to add something? Please go ahead.
I just wanted my
Just introduce yourself. We've done introduction with all of us, and then you add. Please go ahead.
Okay. Vamsi here, Vamsi Tamraju, CTO with Axis Mutual Fund. So I think, 100% agree with Rahul, so transaction data, has been taken as a given. We're one of those dream industries where data is always available. You don't have to knock 10 doors to find data. AMCs, have that luxury of having everything with the RTA, right? So that's why it's a dream place for data. But then it only goes so far as having transactional data. Then you have a lot of this unstructured data around, people voicing out their concerns, or, sometimes even well-dones on social channels, from Twitters to whatnot, right? So social listening has been an active attempt. We started this as an initiative in last 1 year. So when there is a core group, part of the technology team, but then these guys are specifically looking at products and user journeys. So they do active social listening, capture all that, get a synthesis of all that onto a WhatsApp group. That's where it is right now. Now the idea is to kind of get all that into your data lake, and therefore you can tag against a certain customer also if there was a feed from a feed or a tweet from social channels, and therefore then go back with suitable solutions or propositions. That's one. The other thing is also to expand our warehouse capabilities to lake sort of a capability.
Right.
So we've kind of taken data for granted, thanks to the first statement that I made, right? So now the idea is to take it to a lake level. The good part is that we have been native, Amazon native from pretty much day one since I started. We've been native there, and therefore, it's very cost effective in terms of doing a lake sort of a capability. Unlike putting together a proprietary solution and then tying out all your data sources. I think we had that one sort of, if not first mover, one of the early movers advantages.
So that's where my next question is. Obviously, the AI is the flavor of the season. In fact, those who don't even know how to use AI has been giving lectures on the LinkedIn about AI. But I read a very interesting story that The Economist, one of my favorite magazine, did almost a year back, and this is AI is nothing but a devil and an angel, right? So it's all about how you use it. So when we know how to use AI, so you gave a Swiggy example. So I'm sure Srini will know, AI that Srini is using will know which coffee he wants to have at 3 o'clock, perhaps.
I don't use AI for that.
But that's where the challenge is, because the products that the mutual fund companies and even the BFSI companies, whether insurance, have crafted are very, very different age group, different categories. And maybe I will come to you then. I will start from this side. Rashida, if you want to add, how do you help customer choose the right products? Because there are so many products available. I mean, if I meet one MF agent, he will show me so many products, right?
Right. So, I mean, people spoke about, the 360-degree view and collecting data about investors and all of that. And honestly, most AMCs today collect all the unstructured data as well, whether it's through a CRM, from all your touch points, call center, website, etc., right? I think on the product side, there have been some shoots where AI and tech is being used. At least at our end, we have begun some very nascent ideas. And this mainly includes basically creating product baskets that can enable an investor to buy maybe one debt, one equity, one gold, right? To push him to or nudge him in some sense to add an SIP. Would you like to add an SIP to this, right? Those kind of things have just about started. But apart from products, I think where we have started using AI a little more is on the service side. And I think there is tremendous scope. So for example, if I'm a customer and today, usually call center has a TAT of T+1, T+2, T+5, to get an answer, right? If your data is structured, it's available in one place, AI will be able to give you an answer as to what the customer's issue is and how you should respond to him. And that will reduce your service time incredibly. We have moved to a space where almost 98% of our queries that come at the call center are addressed within T-day itself. So it's becoming more real time as we move forward, right? So product is one part, but on the operational side, on the service side, I think AI is something where it will grow much faster and quicker because the use cases are more relevant and quick and easy to implement, so to say.
Sure. Anyone else?
So I just want to echo one thing on the product side, right? One of the challenges to us is AI or any other inference model that you will put out there will ultimately be as good as the data that you have. Now, in terms of know your customer, we made great strides, but do I truly know the customer? I know maybe this customer might be a male in this age range, but that's all I know about them. I don't know how their existing risk profile is, how they allocate their assets, the account aggregator license, and all these things help a bit. But for me to truly holistically recommend an investment product, and I truly believe investing is very personal, right? Two people might be the same age, might like the same type of food, might agree on a lot of things, might even live in the same city. One could sit in 100% FDs, the other might say that, real estate is all that I care for. And so until you get that kind of picture, it's going to be a hard day for you to think about something on the product side.
No, I just want to add, I think it's very interesting that he brings this perspective because we've also been, and then this is in line with product, and because we're a highly regulated entity, there's only so much you can do on the product. What you can definitely do is on the bundling. So we've experimented with this too, and I kind of like what Reno and others were also talking about. What we've been able to do is we've actually offered, we have a what we call it as a multi-asset allocation model, which is an API today. That API actually is consumed by my front-end digital assets. And that kind of builds on the fly a customer allocation model. Again, this is in a B2B environment. We don't do too many B2C because there are regulatory requirements in terms of being regulated and all that. So in a B2B environment, we've been able to build a custom bundling of products based on the customer profile and my asset allocation model. We have a 16 by 16 grid asset allocation model, very complex. We have an asset allocation committee which sits into that, and we come out with that, and we've APIs that to build it as a service. That's worked wonderfully for us. Second thing that we've done, which is I kind of like the investor servicing part of it, but we've built that from a digital experience part of it. We have something we've been doing it now for 5 years called digital smart statements. People are used to looking at their portfolio in a very static way. They look at it and they say investments, when was it made, percentage return, how much it is valued. Our smart statements, which is again something that we don't talk too much and I hope more investors use, is a much more detailed analytics about the customer. It talks about how many times they logged in with us, what were your footprints, whether they used our app more frequently or desktop more frequently. Some of the data points that we have taken of our customers is today available when you actually click on it and says how much engagements, how long is your asset with us. Some of the stuff today people don't talk about, we've actually built. Now, again, we're a B2B company, so some of these experiences are not very much visible, but we built this for our B2C customers too. The third thing that we've done from product design is now we're becoming more and more a quantitative-led company. All our new products that are coming out, whether it's ETF or multi-asset funds or fund of funds or global funds, have been built on data-first approach. So we've taken some of the inputs that we get from our customers. Two inputs that we get from our customers, which again for the first time we've started using, is when people choose a product, there is a segment which says why did you choose it, right? 99% don't fill. But where I get very excited is when people redeem their product, there is a section that we always are saying, why are you redeeming? Unhappy, better product, liquidity, blah, blah, blah. There are some 6-7 stuff. There the number is going up. People are actually giving some inputs. We've also made it difficult for them to make sure they give an input without breaking the journey. That is actually helping us build better product ideas. So one of the product ideas we do very well on is basically services that we've built on top of a product. Instant redemption, bundling of product, top-up SIPs, things like that which get unnoticed today, is actually building very good experiences from a customer's point of view, because we've seen most people are redeeming because of these 10 reasons. And if I can address that through a communication and a product bundle, which probably may help. Instant redemption is during high liquidity period. Top up is when people want to, don't start a new journey, but improve their processes, things like that. So there is now a small team that we have, which is from a product development side, which looks at it. Again, we're not very good at commercializing it. We're very good at talking and innovating internally. Hopefully, that's a big ship and frigate wala part. The turning part also will happen. And the only way to do that is to work with fintech partners. The more you work with fintech partners, more this is going to happen. In-house, I don't think we are going to, do that. But to our credit, for the size of assets that we manage, which is about $280 billion worth of assets, almost 2 crore customer base, we have an email database of about 1.3 crores customers who receive information from us. And our digital footprint is close to about, I think around 9 million now, where our customers have touch point with us. With that, we've been able to do, I think, reasonably good job compared to what we were 2 years ago.
Sure.
Yes. I think all of these are related to each other, whether you're talking of products, whether you're talking of a 360-degree view and things like that. See, the 360-degree view has been, if I can remember, for almost the last 20 years. Till the first guy who did it was the LIC chairman, which I keep repeating. Then Vijayan was the chairman of LIC, and he put the logic of why LIC should go in for a data warehouse and put this at 30 crores at that point in time. Brilliant move. He said 15 crore customers, 2 rupees stamp, 30 crores, I send them this thing. If I get it into a consolidated view, just look at the exponential value I derive out of it. Very simple logic. That was almost in 2004. So I think the whole concept of 360 has much evolved. It's now no longer a 360-degree board. It's around a 720. It's gone to, I don't know when it will go to 1080 kind of stuff. But the point is, today, most of the information is available online. Any kind of interactions. And today you don't have the standard thing that I'm doing a transaction on a web, I'm doing a transaction on the mobile, I'm doing it on WhatsApp. They're all interconnected. So when you start something on one, the other one, or you end up in some other place, you know where the transactions are all going and you're capturing it at any point in time. So much more than that is the time at what he started, where he ended, when was the next response. So that's something which is a really important aspect when you link both these aspects together. Secondly, how much has the system learnt on its own? So today when we talk of AI, we are just generally using the term AI. And I agree with you, Srini, sorry to call you Srini, but Srini,
that's
the point is, your 16 metrics, which is fantastic. I think that's the thing which keeps on learning itself. If you move that into a machine learning kind of things, unless we get into a particular point where the machine throws up data which is relevant to you, you can't move to the next step of an AI. I mean, I agree with Kanishk completely when it comes to independent investment decisions, especially a mutual fund is a small ticket, 500 rupees kind of thing. But when you put in a 50 lakh kind of a investment in some of the companies, you really need to understand what's the logic behind it. So the whole question of just jumping into AI is not something which I would look at. Most important thing is how much has the system learned on itself to give you the output. And that's something which we have been focusing on. So for us, the most important thing is the data science part of it. So what kind of logic, what kind of algorithms, whether you're using regression, whether you're using time series, whether you're using random forest kind of things. I'm just not throwing words because we've been trying all these stunts out there in our data warehouse. What we have is a real-time warehouse kind of stuff where any transaction going up and down is captured real time. I mean, I don't have the volumes that you're talking of, which is trillions and crores kind of stuff. But even whatever thing is, a real-time data is something which is very important for capturing. The second is when you look at the data set, it is not only that, when did he come on board? What was his time? So if he has come in 2000 and if he's now in 2024, his asset would have grown, I don't know, quadruple, triple, take the number and you would have gone. A 1 lakh kind of an investment would have gone to almost about 50, 60 crores probably. Then what's the timing? How many times did he come on board? How many times did he invest? How much did he redeem? How many times did he do a partial redemption? These are areas which is there. Then the next important part comes in is communication capabilities. Are you doing a communication? How many times has he opened his WhatsApp? What's his preference? How many times will you open a laptop today to get any information? I mean, we're all sitting here. None of us have laptops except you. So people would be looking at my mails or messages on their WhatsApp or on their email to capture the time and the configuration. And then start working on the models that you want to decide as to when you want to communicate, what you want to communicate, and how you want to communicate. So that's very important. And that's a very important aspect of the sales part of the business. Of course, service has its own nuances which we can look at. But service nuances are more from a point of how a particular customer has been serviced or a set of customers have been serviced. Once you get into that and the system starts building up that algorithm, then you will be able to service the customer better with much more efficiency. And finally, the last part which I would like to put it is from a data point of view, the data sets which you collect and the algorithms which you use, you can still use it as an investment till only till about 90-95%. You can't use that 100%. It's never going to work out. That 5% or 10% analysis is particularly very important from a fund manager point of view. What is he going to buy? What is he going to trade? There is something known as the gut feel. So even if I say data has shown itself and data is God, but there is some amount of that gut feel which always works out, and that makes a lot of difference. So how do you look at the behavioral analysis at that point in time to look at the whole thing of structured data, unstructured data? Unstructured data today is a given. I mean, we're not even getting into those kind of things, whether it's a video file, whether it's a text, whether it's a audio file clip, you can always put it and get the data out into the system. But the point is, how do you communicate? What kind of communication is done to the customer? The servicing, what level of servicing? And when it comes to investment, since I have all the three, investment, wealth, and an NBFC running, The investment business is completely different from the wealth point of view, because as you rightly said, investment is B2B and then a C, and then you have distributors on which you start working on. But when it comes to a wealth kind of a concept, which is purely a multi-asset kind of a this thing, and today with so many asset classes and so many different areas, that's an area which really requires a huge amount of data science work to be done. You need to build the right algorithms. What works for gold will not work for mutual fund. What works in mutual fund in a hybrid, it might not work. So you have to get into those kind of details to arrive at the next level of data science before even you get into the concept of an AI model to actually. That's my view on this.
Okay.
Of course, you take AI is a different level, but unless you fulfill the first 3, 4, 5 steps of before you go, whether you finish post your data science and all these kind of things, then you have your NER, NLP, and then you move to the complete neural networks on AI. It's still a long time before a pure financial institution can actually jump, unlike a retail store or a consumer business. It's a lot different. That's my view.
Sure, I think quite a detailed perspective from many of you. When I actually shot a question on product, I thought somebody will tell me, Amol, you buy this product and you will get 100% returns in next 1 year. I was expecting that. But anyway, so we have spoken, I think, partly more about how the seamless journey should be for the customers, but there are drop-offs, there are customers who leave the journey in between. And my next question is on that. So anybody wants to please add on this. Experience with the customers dropping off in between. So
I can
customers abandon applications or interactions in various points of their journey. Yes, please go ahead, Ravi.
So, from the investment perspective, I talk about the lending perspective. Yeah, the any drop off or any abandoned journey hits directly. When I say you are going to make an investment of say 1 lakh of rupees and some journey drop off is there, probably that investment can be made tomorrow. But here, when the customer is coming to us for a need of funds, and if he drop offs today, and if his lien is not marked or wherever, there is a question on KYC, is KYC is stuck or he's not able to complete the loan journey, he gets dejected. And then the distributor, our 60% of business is B2B. So the distributor comes and he says, boss, please do it, otherwise he'll redeem it. That's one. Second, if he doesn't redeem it, probably I lose the customer. Either he goes to somebody else or he finds another source of funds. So it is very imperative for us while we say we do a loan journey entirely on 15 to 30 minutes. See, this product has been there for last 2-3 decades, loan against securities, but it never picked up because multiple rounds of journey to banks or NBFCs, confirmation of lien, documentation. So here we try to ease it out. And if there is a drop off, we lose the customer, it's very minimal chances of us to retain him and get him back. 70% of our loan happens on the same day when the customer downloads the app or goes to the website, and another 22% on the next day. So anything after that, either he comes or it's just vanish away. And all our marketing spends on the digital goes for a drain. So yeah, so those are the areas of concerns, and some are genuine, some are regulatory. Say for example, DigiLocker recently came out with 100% match of PAN and Aadhaar. Serious drop off. So for example, Ravi M. Doshi and Ravi Mahendra Doshi reject, can't do anything. Now this regulatory, right? It's DigiLocker, the tech service provider. What Ajit said, cannot also come up with the solutions because it's a government initiative. There are at times API issues at CAMS and K-Fintech level where the lien is not happening. And that hits us, the entire ecosystem, because the customer is granted, the distributor can't do anything, and it goes for a redemption. Yeah.
So the mismatch part is very interesting, but you're saying third party, because of you're dealing with so many players, can also create a disruption and drop off.
No, so for example, so there are many third parties who we integrate. So we ourselves have not built up the match verifications and OCR and everything. So say for example, parties like say DGO, a service provider. Now they can't do anything because DigiLocker says I'm not going to give you 100% match on this. That's the name mismatch is there, it's reject. So there is no workaround. So then either you go for a manual upload, and then manual upload, like we are talking about a loan against investments or shares, mutual funds. Average age is 45-50 years. The pan of 18-20 years, probably there is OCR mismatch, face mismatches there, and it gets drop off, because even at 45% OCR match, it gets dropped off. And that's a pain to entire ecosystem. The customer service deck start getting a call. The solutions is not there. Customer is not happy. The brand image, everything gets for a right.
Just want to add, it's a huge issue for us. And when I say huge issue, because for many years we've been saying we have solved it. There is a digital stack. There are hundreds of stuff, and there are people coming and pitching. Don't worry, we'll give you a success rate and blah blah. At our scale, it's huge. There are tens and thousands of customers that we lose every day because of three issues that we face. And we call it internally, we call it intent, consent, and payment. Right? Intent is solvable. So they click a link, they come, they didn't find the content good, they get out. It's fine, no issue. But the post-consent is where our challenge is. Consent starts with the KYC journey, where we have huge issues. I think the whole industry, because of new changes, is going through pain. I think almost 50% drop happens because of NSDL issue, KYC issues, other KRA compatibility issues. Post that, where we really today have a problem, and because of the scale, and I work on the DPI part of it from the government, and I'm part of the account aggregator platform, and we're really trying to solve is payment issues. We calling ourselves as the cutting edge payment, UPI, real time, blah blah blah. But when it comes to payment mechanism in asset management industry today, between 10 to 15% transactions fail because last mile payments drop, because you have a third party verification issue, you have a UPI is one of the, despite all that stuff, UPI still have a huge issue because UPI has limits, UPI has same day issue, that whole tokenization, VPN issues. There are 10 other things that happens. So there has been a ease of doing business committee, which I've also been part of, where we're really working hard to get the payment solved, because that is a nail in the coffin. Because intent issue is soft dollars, you spend money, you'll get them, we can spend again, get them. But when the problem happens post consent and post payment is when genuinely there is an issue. Millions of dollars of business is lost every day by all this entity because the friction is not so seamless yet. You may say it's journey optimization. We've done all of that stuff. People, even the button, the color of the button and things like that. All that things we've done in the past. But the real problem is infrastructure. Your TSP is failing, your national providers failing, your payment aggregators failing is actually a bigger issue we have to solve. So two things we do. Obviously, we do drop journeys better. We have a huge call center calling people in real time saying, sir, aapka failure hua hai. I've initiated a WhatsApp link for you. Can you start? We build fantastic resume journey stuff. All of us, because it's real money, right? We build all that stuff. But still, I think the success rate, because once the customer is out of your front-end interface, the probability of closure is very low. It only happens when there is a distributor involved, because uska capability to come and convert is high. But when you're on a self-service model like most of our front end is, that becomes very tough. Maybe Reena would do more better than us because their bread and butter survives on that. So we kind of let that go.
Yeah, so just from that perspective, the third party integration and things like that, relatively out of control, as you rightly said. We look at it from two perspectives of what's in control. One is the basic hygiene, right? Is it complex? Have I given enough AI chat support, or, am I helping the customer at that point so he doesn't drop off? Or when he drops off, how do I connect with him? But I think the more interesting part that we're seeing, at least on the direct side, or when you're talking to the customer, is the hyper-personalization part, which means I don't have time to get thousands of emails. I don't have time to read through this kind of stuff. So I'm automatically going to drop. Like if you even take a lead conversion sort of journey, right? It's not just about post-sales. It's also how do I optimize my cost of acquisition and make sure that the customer from a lead converts quickly. So there it's a lot about, are you really giving the value proposition? Are you talking to the customer in the way he, understands and resonates with. So we've started spending a lot of time on that bit to make sure that that continuous improvement, the feedback loop, the segmentation is defined to a more level where you can start seeing greater trends. Now, again, data is limited, but more from the controllable aspects of how do you seamlessly make it, keep it simple, stupid kind of experience in some sense. And I think the other part is the whole continuous improvement. In all of this, if you are not using the data again to change things, and you're not using the data to change real time or very in an agile manner, then again you'll start seeing the controllable factors going up in terms of drop off.
Which is what Srini said.
Sure, sure.
You could build your journeys, you could build workflows, you could have nice shiny looking tech wrappers around everything. What you need to realize is when you're trying to make a payment over a UPI rail, it goes and hits the core system of a bank.
Okay. Okay.
If that's down, that's it. You're unable to make a payment. So you could have all the shiny things running on top of. What you need to understand is everything is legacy architecture. And if that's broken, it has to. So you've got to reimagine payment. So I was recently sharing the dais with Shrikant Nadella, the CEO of KFintech. Right. She did mention about the CAMs and the KFintechs of the world having a treasure trove of data. It's kind of worms because they're actually going through an overhaul themselves because they just are still stuck 20 years ago, right? So they just released, so Equalify just had an event a couple of days ago where I got a chance to speak as well about how are they modernizing their data architecture is something to be really, I was in awe of how they actually have come about changing, because unless they look at, microservices based architecture, you can't retrofit mutual fund stack to private credit. That's what they were doing. So suddenly there is a slew of new asset classes, and then you have newer journeys, and you are asking the same RTAs to service, and they're like lost. I said, how do I retrofit? So I have a mutual fund stack, and this is what I was being servicing for the last 30 years, 25, 30 years, and let me retrofit. It was not going to work, and it never worked. So they had to refresh and think from first principles. So I think that's essentially the point I'm trying to make.
One of the key important areas, one of the key important areas is also the regulatory framework. See, you got to look at it two things. The amount of notes or papers, whatever we call it, that has come from, whether it is SEBI or whether it is from CVL KRA or whether it is from the PAN, this thing. The latest one, just giving a simple example. You can't take the name which is there in CVL KRA, you have to take the name which is there in the PAN, ITD, whatever comes into your ITD. Now, if people do have a mismatch, just like you said, Ravin Doshi and Ravi M. Doshi, which one do you take? That's one of the fundamentals. So when you embark on a digital journey, there are various touch points. So right from the fact that I'm very proud that the government of India has released all these APIs, and at least they've made it available. So something otherwise which would have to be done manually. Today, the fact that you're getting the data, but the fact is there is no central agency which has got a commonality across. So whether you take CVL KRA or you take banks CKYC, there are almost about 30-40 fields which are completely different the way they have been put between CKYC and the CVL KRA. Simple, gender. It is male in one and it is M and F in the other. So how do you take that thing and which one gets authorized for what kind of purpose? So you have a challenge there, which is the first and most important thing on a digital onboarding journey. Then comes the next part, whether there's a 100% match or other things. So the standardization of things which is not available today amongst our internal regulatory framework and agencies is the first challenge, which is inhibitor for us when we come to a digital kind of a stack. Then as we go along, you have the payments and other stuff, at least the DigiSign, even you getting an OTP from a DigiLocker, sometimes it comes instantly, sometimes it takes time because of the volumes which goes up. Finally, if you look at the payment stack again, as I said, as Srini and everybody alluded to, it's very clear that UPI has a limitation because it has the number of values. If you go for a penny pay, penny reverse, penny drop and all that stuff, at least you're just helping the customer not remember the bank account number and the IFSC code. The rest can be done. So those are areas which are still challenges which needs to be addressed. A lot of them which is creating a problem today in the industry of what is doing a drop is almost on the CKYC stuff. And unless they get into a one common source of KYC information and remove these 4 or 5, whether it is camps, we have a problem, Carvi, we have a problem. Whatever they do, they don't have the complete data. The data sets are missing. I mean, whatever you want. The previous topic where you want to do data analytics.
Thanks for calling it out.
No, it's simple. I always
Exactly.
have. There's nothing wrong in
I
calling.
was a black sheep. I said,
No, it's. I don't know if it's a black sheep.
Not here,
white
I'm
sheep,
saying
whatever.
on other
The
forums.
point is the information what is required as an organization for us to run is not available. It's as simple as that. Let's put it that way. They have been on their development for their new platform for some time.
Right.
So these are some of the biggest challenges that I feel are there, at least from a customer standpoint. And then, of course, the payment industry. That's now because all these guys have been coming under PMLA Act regulation and all these things. I mean, they've created that as such a closed door. Previously, what was something which would go through within seconds or milliseconds. Today, it takes minutes and sometimes that. So
Yes.
these are some of the challenges which are there in the industry from a overall perspective on the drop from the people to drop off and then getting them back again to fulfill those conditions is a challenge.
So that's, yeah, sure,
Sorry,
please.
just wanted
Go
to
ahead.
add one more thing. I mean, I completely agree with all these payment difficulties, and I think
Yeah.
that is the core of the drop-off cycle. But also wanted to add that the world that we are moving into, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas and whatever you call it, are moving to a phase where the time span that you get to do these transactions is shrinking every day. So the shorter the transaction journey, the more likely it is to go through. It is what it has become today,
Couldn't agree.
right? And literally, I have seen tons of people where they do it and then at the minute of the payment, if it fails, theek hai, forget it, I will do it later,
Right.
and gone, finished, right? So the optimization, I think, will now go into more in reducing the pain or the size of the journey. And simplifying the jargon. The
Right.
other thing that we are all guilty of today, and I mean, I don't mean to call out anyone, is we have a ton of jargon in the MC industry, whether it's AIF, it's MF, or it's lending or wherever, insurance, etc. Whether it's SIP se leke OTM se leke, I don't know.
I'm sorry. So I used to work with Stanchart, and they had an app which had a small section for acronyms within the bank.
Exactly.
First thing that you would have to acclimatize is
Agree.
the the short forms in the bank, right? So
Yeah.
so it's not the MC alone, but
So investors really don't care. I mean, for them, if you're going to throw so many jargons at their face, it's going to cause drop-offs, right? It's going to
Exactly.
cause angst, and it will delay the whole process. So we as an industry also need to reduce the amount of jargons and simplify the life of the investor, because that's the only way I think it will go.
Absolutely. I think, in fact, you said it really, really well. When I got my first job in CNBC, insurance was a sector that I started covering on. And I actually made a dictionary of the things which I really didn't understand. Repudiation, free-look period, made really a explanation of all these terminologies.
You should talk to the regulator.
Maybe you should come
Coming
up with
back to this
Yes, yes.
we did a very interesting study, and I showed this to the regulator. How things have got simpler and yet complicated. And this is very simple because our website is there since 2001, right? Which was an information website. We have data points on everything. We have time back machines to go back and look at it. We introduced internet banking, I think, around 2010 or so. And at that time, KYC was not important. All you could do was put in your form, do a net banking. They had only one HDFC bank which could do that. And in 2 minutes, investment was made. Then came the KYC era. Then the whole thing went for a toss because nothing was digitized. So people could only, who have already invested, can do new transaction. But they could still do it in 2 minutes, right? Then came the era of digital KYCs, right? And all of us were allowed to do digital KYC, and it's very simple. You had only Aadhaar-based authentication in the initial days. So it was so easy. Fatafat. In fact, we had biometric also. It was even more faster. Now, what everybody calls a 2-minute journey, is actually a 15 minutes journey when you are a new investor.
Maggie.
And sun or noise.
What have we simplified
about
with
2
all
minutes.
the stack? We've
Nothing.
not simplified anything. So no amount of tech you throw, no amount of standardization you throw won't happen, because there have been a lot of regulatory changes which have made it more and more tougher for you to do it easy. And I completely agree with her. Why can't you make it simple? You have only so much time for people to make an investment. Unfortunately, we're going in the other direction. It's going to take more and more time, more disclosure, more consents, more issues. What we can definitely do is something that we've given as a paper to regulator also, is to standardize across the board rather than regulator by regulator. KYC is a challenge we've been talking for ages now, and there is a paper that we gave 3 years ago which is still in discussion, where we said universal KYC should be there. But every regulator says there is on PMLA guideline you can't have a universal KYC. RBI says they can't have a universal KYC. Finally, the finance commission is now come up with the revenue secretary. The finance secretary is working on a final model. Hopefully, we will see either a revival of CKYC to its original intended version, or a brand new Aadhaar-based KYC capability. If that happens, 40% of our KYC journeys are simplified. Having said that, you said you're Standard Chartered Bank, ex-Standard Chartered Bank. I was talking to a colleague in Standard Chartered Bank. Yeah, I was in a conference last week in Paris, and I was talking to them. Apparently, it's so, because none of them are stacks there. None of them are stacks there. None of them is public data there. Everything is to be physically proved through some record. So the guy uploads the data. He scans and uploads the data. There is somebody physically verifying the data, saying this kind of match is okay. It seems to be a okay data. And this is true with US too. US try and open an account in a bank. It's 2 days process. They will say it's 24/7. They're a digital bank, will say opened, but they are just what they call it as, we've opened provisionally.
Okay.
Your actual transaction happens after 2 years, 2 days. This is a sad state, but we still in India, thanks to DPI and others, we still far more better. But I understand with her that my daughter obviously doesn't like it. She's just turned a major. She went to the bank yesterday and said, I want to, HDFC Bank, I want to make this account from a minor to a major. He says, this form, this application, this process. She came back and said, I am not interested to this.
Exactly. So that's a major challenge. But now I have a very important question, continuing with what all of you said. He said that 15 to 20% payments sometimes fail, billions of dollars business have been sometimes missed because of all these issues. So what levers have you found most effective in streamlining the onboarding process and accelerating the conversation rate? And how have you reduced the sales cycle if you look at the fine print key objective? Anybody wants to add?
Maybe I'll just take a peek from where the last question was left. See, when we did this analysis some time back, roughly 1 year back, OTPs and payment gateway failures, they are the staples, right? One had to do with scale handling, kind of scalability requirements for the OTPs to seamlessly come, and second had to do with how good your routing algorithm can work, right? Both could be thankfully solved by tech to a reasonable extent. So that's 2 things. Second, there are 2 types of people who drop out. One, people who seriously wanted to do something, but then they didn't find the journey simple enough, in other words, or the website was not behaving well, or the app was not behaving well, dropped out. Then you had these window shoppers, right? People who came onto your website or the app to just browse around, see what's happening. There's this new NFO, and because they have come looking for this NFO, they also are browsing other pages. They're doing this window shopping. Some point of time, they drop out. The idea was to max out on these window shoppers, while they had no intention to do anything either way. Now that they are here, how do I engage and gamify, their presence and the amount of time that they spend on my assets, digital assets? What can I do to make sure I learn something about this set of investors? So that was the attempt, So for example, we had these goal-based journeys, the baskets that we thought, we worked out different things and could part of your segmentation, etc. Along with demography, you would also have these insights that are directly derived out of these window shoppers, if I can use that term, right?
Right.
So I think that was a value addition. But for people who genuinely dropped out because of a transactional issue, there are these drop links and all those things are there. But I think it's the former part which was new for us, to engage with people who had partial intention, if any, of actually doing a transaction. But since they were there, how can I max out on learning about the customer? That was the intention. I think we're progressing reasonably okay there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Pranay? I'll just like to add, see, reducing sales cycle, when we talk to the customers and try to understand what's their pain point, see, you're one step away from realizing you have a smooth journey, and then there is a SEBI guideline comes in, everything goes for a toss. So what we've understood is that you need the agility. So you talk about personalization, of course, that's required. Once you sit together, invest in technology, have the business processes, assuming that the government guidelines are there, you say this is the process, and then something comes up, right? So you have to have that vision, and that's what we sort of suggest is it is an ongoing process. So what we suggest to our customers is that you look at a sales cycle, these are the best practices which are there. You have your own tribal knowledge, you have the best in talent. Typically if every organization starts using the safe software, it doesn't mean that everybody will be successful. It's the tribal knowledge which comes in. But once you marry all that together, you have to have the agility. I was reading a BNY Mellon report where they were talking about how asset management companies are investment and what are the challenges which they face. So from the technology aspect, it was advised that you should have the agility which is there, so that even if you say this is my sales process, this is best in the world, it is future ready. Right, so that's what we tell organizations, and you'll keep on hearing me saying future ready, because I don't need to preach to the choir of how competitive the asset management organization is. But let's say you take a lever off, you say I've done this. The next time the organization which is competing will do two more things. So you need to have that agility to change the process as and when you feel required. So that's what I feel when you say it's sales and onboarding. It's a marrying of the agility, a marrying of the tribal knowledge which is there, and fingers crossed for the government guidelines.
Sure. Rahul? Okay.
Yeah. Adding to what Pranay said, there is lot has happened in the sense sometimes we are future ready and its future is happening to us. And every asset management company or the BFSI space, if you can go back, when I started my career 3 decades back, the physical application mode to today, the way we do it, in spite of all the hurdles, one industry is growing and things are becoming better. And wherever we are able to provide beyond asset management as a solution to the customers. For example, Faraz from Aditya Birla Capital side, we have a separate, recently we have launched this app called ABCD, Aditya Birla Capital Digital. And there, you are taking the entire customer service life cycle is a holistic approach in the sense, probably, I call it as a model called SAVE. The customer is looking for solutions and you have a solution for everything. Those solutions we bucketed under 3-4 models. It is like, you are looking for a protection, your insurance requirements, you are looking for your investments, your goal orientation, and you are looking at financing and taking the loans, your house loan to blah, blah. And the last is broad holistic advice for you, how you want to navigate. Means, my S part is taken by that PIFA part of it. And the second part is, it's a model is, I can put it roughly as a SAVE, save. And one, you have a solution. Second, you create that awareness, around the solutions, how you best educate that navigation can happen much more better. And the third part is the V, that is a value added services. Earlier, as Srini was telling, it's the instant redemption and you have various ways bundling the products and how you can get there. There's a value added services. And the last is all that ends up well when you have that E part right, that execution platform. And if you execute well, I think that's an approach. It's working. Everything you need to improve every day. It is it's.
Sure. Yes, I think Rahul and Bhavit, I think, kept quiet for some time. Bhavit, I think, didn't speak, so maybe.
So I think when it comes to reducing the sales cycle, I think there are two aspects to it, right? We've been speaking about the investor side. So I mean, a lot of us have technology to do that. We, have callbacks and so on and so forth. But the other side is also the distributor side. And how do we aid the distributors to kind of close sales much faster? So we will see of methods to give them nudges as to which investor they should reach out to. Or let's say if an investor who is investing through a particular distributor hasn't completed his journey, how do we nudge the distributor to get that information and then get in touch with the investor to complete that journey? Or for that matter, how do we give intel to the distributors to say that this is the kind of cohort that they should reach out to, etc. So I think that's another whole aspect that needs to be looked into. I think some of the AMCs already have some kind of solutions in place there, but I think with the newer technologies of AI, etc., I think that's another focus area that can be looked at.
Okay.
Sure. Back to, I think a lot of these solutions are not necessary tech. It's about design challenges. One of the things that we are trying to do now is to see how do we gamify experience very early. People get very bored if they see financial content. I mean, this is a known thing. SEBI actually allowed us as asset managers to do wallet-based transaction, and this just happened about a year ago, but still nobody has come out with it because there are some challenges. We took that as an experience, and we've now built. I mean, we've built a gifting platform, which today allows our customers to gift their children's or your spouses. There is a 4-5 setup the regulator allows you to your children's, your parents, your siblings. There are I think 4 of them. So we've just built that, and the initial stuff is pretty good because tech stack happens in the back end. The experience stack happens in the front end. So it's an ability for a parent to gift a mutual fund and the child to actually go back and experience that gifting experience through very interesting, scratch bases, again, registering themselves and getting the first-hand information. Our first experience seems to be doing well. And this is coming from the insights that industry is not growing. We have only 4 crore customers managing 50 trillion assets under management. So we really now need to build this in asset management has to build this on more of experiences rather than just digital, because I think largely digital part is solved. It's the experiences part that now we need to really work on.
Isn't it education also more about educating the
spend 500 crores on mutual funds every year. Which industry spends that?
And my view is India used to be a saving economy. We've gone from there to.
I agree, Bhavit. The issue is people are aware, people are not acting. I'm sitting on the fence all the time. There are 12 crores people playing on Dream 11. There are, I think, 10 crore derivative traders who trade every day.
Yeah.
Right? And then there are 4 crore mutual fund investor after 40 years of mutual fund industry and 500 crores per annum spent on mutual funds. I'm all the culprit. I'm on that committee, including Rao and me.
Is there a lack of trust?
It's a lack of experience. You've got to build this. We've built a frictionless experience. We've not built the cohorts which are like saying, I want to click 2 buttons and it's done for me. And this is like a second nature. How UPI built the whole payment industry, you've got to build the frictionless industry.
Just to add,
sorry, go ahead.
To add, right, the hardest part about our industry is everyone's running after instant gratification, whether it's an algorithm on social media, it's Dream 11, it's 18 crore people playing lottery, or the promise of derivatives that I'll put in 1 rupee, I'll get 100. Here we're asking them, you should plan for this, wait 5 years, maybe 30 years, 20 years. If you're consistent every month, you're going to get this thing at the end.
And you can't create a Dream 11 for AMCs.
You really can't, right? I mean, there's a thin line there between mislabelment and marketing, and what they've done with Robinhood in the US, where if I submit an order, I'll have confetti drop. I mean,
but gamification has been tried so many times. Even when we started with banking, gamification was the first step to get youngsters to open an account, or the kid savings account, as you call that in those days. The kid savings account, for that you had games, you had Sunday outings where you use the software to actually get people onto them and get the kids to play as if you have opened account, a piggy bank account, and all those things. But I don't think in the asset management industry it's that kind of a thing, because I believe in the fundamentals.
I mean, so
It's
there is enough anecdotal research to say that people are aware, but there is a so we do this we do this big research for mutual fund industry. We have like tons of data which can actually tell you that every single person would have seen that, understood it, and sees there is a benefit. But that friction of investing is the challenge. Now, with regulator, we're trying to work hard to make that easy. Now, gamification is one way to do that, but can it become a second nature for people, right? Very early stage and stuff like that. If youngsters start doing this rather than derivative trading or Dream 11, savings become a inculcation as a habit, then I think the next generation is solved. Otherwise, ये 4 crores, 5 crores जाएगा, 6 crores जाएगा.
नहीं जाएगा. And
You can't compete with derivatives trading, to be honest.
We will tax them, which we have done.
Which is what is going to happen anyway. But the point is, you're right. The problem with most of this thing is, as we said, you come down to the fundamentals. That's greed. So unless the children understand that you've invested this and this has grown to this kind of a thing,
You got to build that experience.
build an experience
I
for
think
doing
when it
that.
comes
And
to
they have to see
investment,
that.
yeah, when it comes to investment, I think instant gratification, I think Kanishk made that point, is also very important, because often, when I tell somebody that I'm a finance journalist or people who know me, acha, which stocks to buy? और ये इंट्राडे क्या होता है, आज मैं डालूंगा तो कल डबल होगा क्या? That's if you just ask them कि बस लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए करो, कोई ब्लू चिप कंपनी का स्टॉक लो या SIP कर लो, अरे वो सब नहीं यार. That's how I think that mentality has to be
It
changed.
ties back to what she said.
Yes.
from this, that youngsters want to have instant gratification, and that has to happen within a 15-minute period, or it
Yes.
has to happen within 1 to 2 years.
Not even
Yes.
15 minutes. I take you from what Rashida said. Maybe your journey has to be within the duration of a reel, Instagram reel. And then you'll get Gen Zs and Gen As on board.
I think the problem with that is, this is again another fallacy. By making it too easy, you're mis-selling. So you got to make it convenient, at the same time comfortable, that what I'm doing is not, it's so easy to say, like he said, why didn't you pitch me and say you will double your assets? First thing he said, nobody's pitching me, right? Because it's not in our nature to pitch to you. In our nature to take a 20-minute pitch to you so that you then decide what you want to do. But that needs to happen from very early. That mindset has to change. And there are only two ways to do it. One is we as an industry make it easy. The second is government takes initiative to make it difficult for the instant gratification to work. I think the government is working very hard to tax Bitcoin trading, to tax all this stuff. I think that will continue to happen. Otherwise, as an economy, we're doomed, right? Nobody has any. Derivative trading is the biggest nightmare that's there.
Absolutely.
Right. And while some broking companies here may not like it, but that's a fact. But they're making money out of it.
So I think the time is up, but let me just stretch for 5 minutes more. I think I had 2-3 more questions, but I think compliance and regulations we already covered, so I will not touch that. But slightly more about hyper personalization and the frictionless experience. So how are you looking at personalized product discovery? Generic product information is outdated now. So how are you using AI specifically to generate personalized product recommendations? Again, we partly discussed that, but align it with consistent omnichannel experience, and how do you see specifically the future going ahead, if anybody wants to add on that?
I mean, it comes back to this whole thing about, is it really possible for me to crunch all structured, unstructured, your mode, your time of the day data, and give you in the 2 seconds something that you will definitely click? That is not for, at least at this point of time, other than the Googles and Amazon of the world can do it. Maybe over a period of time, this data is kind of universally available for you to on the fly do it. Until then, we still have to depend on people being a little more patient with us. Really need that experience. Because I don't think we should try and solve for that. What we can definitely solve for is at least genuine intents, right? Somebody is genuinely intended to buy because he's read or seen it. that journey should not fail. If that journey fails, then you're losing a good experience. But somebody who's uninitiated because you've got some data around, unstructured data around, wo browse kar raha tha 5 bar. So we have the same top of the funnel issue, right?
Yeah,
Our
yes,
conversion ratio from the top of the funnel to this thing is in single digits. That's because of the size of millions of traffic that comes in. But if the digital marketing guy comes and tells me, sir, usko itna sara aa raha hai, I'm not able to convert it, I'll say, boss, that data is a fallacy. You should not look at that. So I think there is enough and more intent journeys which are failing, which we need to fix. AI can help a long way going there. One of the things that we do is success ratios that we have in SBI, we have actually got a customer service desk, which is only looking at customer success as a part of it. And they use some of these, I won't say AI, but ML tools, which looks at, like, one of the things that we do is we have 5 providers for payment. We have 2 providers for KYCs. So we kind of tell you based on the success that's happening, which provider makes sense. So we bring that journey up in terms of what's the right KYC provider to show you, rather than show somebody who's failing at this point of time. Some of the stuff that we have done, again, because of our scale, impact looks very small, but hopefully over a period of time, these things will start becoming better.
So, yeah, go ahead. I think so. Once you want
No,
to.
please.
Okay. So, just my 2 cents here. I am more of an optimist when it comes to personalization, or, looking at how AI can help. But what has been, the real case at the ground is currently India, China, these have been very benevolent as far as data sharing is concerned. We are coming up with the DPDP Act, but it's still, that as compared to the GDPR Acts. So when we talk about, I know, as, business leaders, you'd look at how can I personalize data, how my broken journeys being, taken care of. But what also needs to be looked at is there is a thin line between personalization and, encroaching about in somebody's space. We do not talk about that because Indians right now are not in that space. As the awareness grows, especially about the Gen Zs, and how people start reacting, they might become a little averse to, I do not want this much personalization. So you have to have a boundary where personalization is something you sell and it is effective to the audience. Secondly, a lot of things when you talk about Gen AI, what we've seen is it's, while it looks like a very fancy new shiny object, which it is, and we have seen different trends of technology coming in, you have to have a responsibility of how you're implementing it. So again, you would have seen or heard about what discrimination means in AI. You would have heard about hallucinations. So those are things, when you look at personalization using AI, those are the things you should look about. Because business, I think so, you are the best judge of what is doing it. But how do you want to achieve that? What's the cost you pay? That's something you should also be concerned about.
I'll pick on what Pranay said. In fact, AI, somewhere at some level, people think it's a magic wand. It will come and give you some fantastic suggestions and personalizations and all that. In my opinion, it's a tool. How well you use the tool, how you creatively train the tool, how good, strong your data is feeding into the tool will eventually result into how good the AI throws out outputs.
Okay.
We have been playing with AI, experimenting a lot, and we have seen if your data quality improves and you train it well, the accuracy suddenly shoots up significantly. But it's about up to your creativity, what you want to train and how good your data is. So that's something that backend work is required significantly, which probably nobody thinks about.
Why omnichannel is so important, right? Because a lot of the data that we're trying to get, the RMs and distributors of our world already have it in their Rolodex. In the Rolodexes labeled, this is the like, this is the dislike, all these kind of things. There's just the move from over time. How do you get the customer to give you the data in a format where it's ingestible for you, even if you call it unstructured in some manner, right? And that's what's gonna.
First challenge is get the RM to enter the data after the call.
Yeah, after the call, right? And enter it in a way where not only him, but other people can understand it. Because everyone has their own style.
Don't even go to that extent. Just tell him to keep your phone on, and when you talk to the customer, taking his consent. That's enough. Don't write, don't type, don't even use a stylus or whatever you want to do. Just get that data.
Just
Then the encroachment
Data
concern
capture.
comes in, right?
so that's why I think at this point of
Sure.
time, while Pranay said he's very optimistic on AI and ended up with a very pessimistic note, there are issues. I am optimistic on AI from the asset management space, not on the customer side of it,
Correct.
but on the two big stuff that we are really investing in is in the investment management side of it, which is knowledge management, getting data organized, getting insightive input, which helps my asset and my dealers, fund managers, and take that. We actually run a project internally. We have a small R lab in the company which works around it. The second part of it I really work is big signals around the risk and compliance side of it. We've started a recent project around risk management side of it, where we freely started using a Llama 3 model internally to try and look at some of those
Correct.
risk parameters. At our scales, that becomes a very important thing. And today, insider trading is a big thing that everybody's talking about. But we are trying to build some internal models to catch that, because data is available, trading desk data is available. If we can build models which are reputation risks are much higher, and nobody bothers about whether you are acting on that AI advice or not, because it's all internal to you, right? So those are things that I am more optimistic, Pranay, than at this point of time. The only experience that will work probably very well is a great NLP engine on a front-end interface, which can break all the stuff in terms of conversational stuff. That I think is definitely everybody should do, no doubt about it. Beyond that, using that experience in building journeys and all, wo thoda abhi at this point of time cranky. Hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully products will evolve to bring that there, or service providers will bring that there. But definitely using LLMs, especially in building models, is on the risk and investment side, is the way to go. And that's the only way to distinguish between this asset manager, that asset manager is our bread and butter. Can I do better with the same 250 stocks that he uses and I uses by using AI? Right? That's the key part of it.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you so much. I think we can continue the discussion or maybe the drinks and the dinner outside. And it's a pleasure listening to. I love, this format. Sometimes not a typical 15 minutes interview where question and answer rounds are a little limited. It's quite open. So it was a great learning for me. And I think when you said hopeful, we all should be hopeful. I think this is the best time for the India. Macros are looking really, really great. The one line which I always, try to repeat, which I really liked when I got an opportunity to moderate a session with Mr. Nilekani. And then the Nilekani says, it's the best time for India because we are moving from a prepaid to a post-paid economy. I mean, it has level the way he described it. I think that's what we can see in every sector today. So great. It was a pleasure listening to you. Stay connected to ETBFSI, subscribe to our free newsletter and, do read our stories and be part of our conversation. Thank you so much for being part of this. Let's join us for a group photo and then we'll move for a dinner. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.